All right, Matt Steinmetz, the Guru Johnson with you. And Steiny and Guru live from downtown Vegas at the Circa Hotel and Casino. And back at home minding the studio, Mark Willard. And I take it Dibs is back.
Dibs
is
here.
Screening calls.
Dibs is here.
Dressed in black.
Man.
Yeah. Okay. Come on, man.
Screening calls, hashtag team player. And you know what? It's actually pretty fun to screen calls because you get to hear the callers. And our callers are great here on 95.7 The Game. And, hey, 95.7 The Game, what's your name? Where are you calling from? I'm Rick in Richmond. And they immediately launch into, I disagree with Steiny or Guru's full of it or whatever it is. They come with the absolute heat. It's like, sir, hold on, save it for the air and make sure you keep it locked 2 to 6, Willard and Dibs. And, I had to get a little promo.
What's up, Willie?
What's up, boys?
Yeah,
I'm so glad you finally have your shades on. I was picturing you, it's theater of the mind. I'm driving around all day, and Steiny and Guru are in Vegas, and you now officially look exactly like I pictured you.
Okay,
I mean,
you go.
Got the collared Aloha shirt on. You got the shades on inside. When I first walked in the building and saw you didn't have your shades on, I felt disappointed. So I'm glad now. You look like you're ready for Friday in Vegas, brother. You look like you're ready to go.
They're giving us the VIP treatment. It started last night, Dibs. They got our name on clipboards at the airport. We're in the limousine.
Oh, man.
And now we're ready on Radio Row. And my partner not driving me crazy. I just feel like we're saying the same thing a different way.
Yeah, we're not.
We are Steve Young. Did you hear the Steve Young sound, Dibs?
Yeah, actually, we were just
Super Bowl
talking
or
about
bust?
it in the break. We were getting ready to cue it up and play a lot of it on our show.
It's not a bad thing. They're loaded.
Well,
When's
it
going
depends
to
on
happen?
depends on how you look at it, I think, and which cut we're talking about in terms of Steve Young.
Well,
the Super Bowl or bust.
I think you're talking about this, and let's get our listeners into this. So here, I have it in front of me. I think this is the one that you guys are talking about.
There is no question, and it has been for 3 years now, the best roster in football. Best talent, the best deployment of that talent by a coach, an offensive mind, second or first tied with Andy Reid. So you need a quarterback, and they should win multiple Super Bowls or be in the mix, and they have been in the mix for multiple Super Bowls. So, yes, this team is Super Bowl. No question. Super Bowl or bust.
What's bust mean?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, is it wrong to say that I feel like that's a different statement coming from Steve Young than it is from a fan in section 153?
Or me?
I mean? Well, yeah. I just that's my first reaction. Obviously, he's not wrong, and there is some sort of a middle ground into the conversation that you guys have been having. Super Bowl or bust, nobody's at the beginning of this 49ers season has any hope that's short of that. But that's where you loop in the whole expectation, because I think that's an unfair word. Steve is even saying, you should be in the mix repeatedly through this window, and they have been, but you can't get to the end of the window and not look back and have one and not feel disappointed. I think that's fair. To do it in any one season, that's where I think it's unfair. I cannot say today either the Niners win the Super Bowl this year or it's a bust. I can say when you get to the end of this roster, call it a 6-year window, if you look back on that and there was never a championship, sure, that would feel very disappointing. That's what I think Steve is saying.
I think that's what he's saying too. I mean, I think I think the goal of any team is to be in the mix every year. What about the notion that Kyle can't win the big one?
Well, he can.
Is it too early for that?
Of course
No,
it is.
it's not too early.
It's actually been disproven already.
Well, the big one would be the Super Bowl, and he's been to the big one, and I won't count his time as a coordinator because he wasn't the head coach, but the one time he was in the big one, they didn't win it, so
but that
it's
makes
fair
him
to say
0-1. That makes him 0-1.
Right.
No,
you don't
Willard, the NFC
Marv
Championship
Levy-
games count too.
Marv Levy couldn't win the big one.
But he won one of those,
Right, but right now
he
Shanahan
lost
has
two
not
of them.
won the big one, so right now he has to.
Okay.
Like Chris Paul, he's one of the greatest players to never win a championship. Does that mean he can't win one? Well, He might win one this year.
He hasn't, but it's
Neither
also
has Kyle.
Yeah, he's also different because Chris Paul has never been like the leading scorer on a
Willard,
team that's supposed to win a title.
Quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This was the word that I used to my partner. I would not be dumb enough to say definitively to clarify that Kyle can't win. I said, and I feel there's a theme developing, and the theme has been a 10-point lead in the NFC Championship game, a Super Bowl, and we know what happened last year, but that's still on the record. You lost in the game before to go Super Bowl. So I said there's a theme. I don't think there's anything wrong with that we got to watch why they haven't won, but he's also had opportunities to win those games.
Let me ask you this then. If you're going to paint a label based on that small of a sample size, then why would you have a hard time saying Brock Purdy's a future Hall of Famer?
Because we're going to find out.
But that was
There's not a given that Kyle's going to get back to that stage.
Nothing is given. Nothing is given. My point is that the Brock Purdy window stretches 8 games. You want to label Kyle, you just mentioned 3 football games. And in fact, he did win an NFC championship going away. Like he blew the Packers off of the football field. So I guess my response would be this. If you want to use words like he hasn't succeeded in some of the biggest moments, but when you use a label, that means you're saying it's a characteristic. And if he, quote, can't win the big one, then how do you describe the big ones that he has won?
He's won some medium big ones. He hasn't won the big
some
one.
Huge ones.
Well, he hasn't won the super one.
But he's only been to that one time.
Yeah, and what happened?
But that makes you 0-1.
They blew a lead.
But you don't give somebody a characteristic. I'm not going to call you someone who doesn't show up for work, but you didn't yesterday.
Well, I mean, do you know what I mean? I called it a theme.
If you want to pull out the attendance sheet, it'd be interesting between all of us.
I guess this is where I'm coming from. If you say Kyle Shanahan, give me some stuff. What are some characteristics of Kyle Shanahan? I'd probably list off 12 before I even get to, that doesn't even enter my mind. Oh, you know what? It would be great play caller.
Yeah, that's one.
Great scheme.
Sure.
A little bit arrogant.
That's 3.
And stuff.
Genius.
And this, that, and the other thing.
That's 5.
But I'm not sure I would
You're
ever
7
say.
away from 12, but
oh,
that's all right.
And he can't, and he might not be, but he can't win the big one. That's not even on my radar at this point in his career.
It's something I'm watching, guys. That was the whole premise, Dibs. And you guys a lot of people keep acting like tomorrow is promised, and the Niners are going to be playing in championship game after championship game.
You act like Super Bowls are promised.
This is the one, though, I got to get off. You two look good today. Andy Reid, I took an L because we went 15 round a couple years back, and I called him a choker. And he ended up going to Kansas City, and now he is the Jedi who he is. But those chips in Kansas City, and Steiny, you help me out, those chips in Kansas City mean diddly squat to the Philadelphia Eagle fans, right? So if Kyle doesn't win here as a Niner, Steiny, if he goes somewhere and win, like you said earlier, that doesn't make it okay.
Was Andy Reid the reason that the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl in his tenure in Philadelphia? Was Andy Reid the reason?
He went to 4 NFC championships. I don't know. I just know the facts. He never won.
Okay, but Goo, is he the reason now? That's the way I would ask it. What's the difference?
It comes with the territory.
What's the difference between what's the difference between Andy Reid in Philly and Andy Reid in Kansas City?
When the buzzer goes off, the gun goes off, his team has more points.
I'd say the difference is Patrick Mahomes plays for one of those teams and not the other one. So that's where I'm coming from. I see everybody's got a point in this conversation for sure.
You know what? I like that.
My point is that we hang those labels around people, and then until we don't, and then we act like it's okay that we hung the label around once it's been disproven. Peyton Manning couldn't win the big one, and then he did.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, is Barry Bonds a choker? I mean, I watched him in Anaheim. I went to all 7 games. He hits the ball all over the damn yard.
But that was the first postseason where he actually did anything.
Talk to him, Dibs. I was about to bring it up.
Postseason, the knock on Barry Bonds was he was a postseason choker.
Yes.
And then in that postseason, he was otherworldly. But until that point, that label was there, and the label fit.
Right, and taking playoff stats to baseball players in small samples is usually unfair because a pitcher is not going to give that guy. They're not going to let that guy be the guy that beats you in the playoffs.
And you're not feasting on mediocre pitchers.
And the Angels didn't either. I sat in front of Troy Percival right after he gave up that home run to Barry Bonds and was laughing about it because he literally said, we're up by 2 runs, and he's up with no one on the base.
Right,
so I figured I'm going to throw this ball as hard as I can and see how far he can hit it. And then he can hit it really far.
Wow,
so
man.
it wasn't a key moment.
Dibs.
Steiny.
How long did Mickelson go before he won a major?
I don't know the exact number of years, but it was a significant number. And by the way,
how about Rory?
You could not nearly as long.
My point is,
knock
let's
on
just
Phil
not make the
Mickelson
same
is
mistake.
that he can't win the U.S. Open, and that label still dogs him today. And he can't win the U.S. Open. And Andy Reid lost 4 NFC Championship games in Philadelphia before he even lost the Super Bowl. He lost 4 NFC Championship games.
Right.
So it's fair to tag him with that label.
What about now? Does Andy Reid still have that label now?
No, he shed it like a snake sheds his skin.
So the label that you gave him at the time was wrong.
Well, just
even
like
though
the same label that many of us gave you about stick to basketball Steinmetz, because at the time you could only talk about basketball. But now, 12 years later, much like Andy Reid, you've evolved and you've become a champion. So now that stick to basketball Steinmetz label, it doesn't fit anymore because you, like Andy Reid, have become a champion.
Why would you continue to
You're
double
welcome.
down on goofy statements that always end up biting you in the ass?
Do they always end up?
Most of the time, yeah.
Is Charles Barkley going to win a championship? I will wait.
2 o'clock, Will.
Wait a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. Don't worry. I got you guys covered.
I don't know why I'm
covered.
stuck on that.
Yeah.
Steiny's got dice to grab. Let's go, Steiner.
Watch
he had him for 30 minutes.
He said he won $40, though. Come on.
42.
Why? What are you putting your chips
Playing
on, Steiny?
Nickel craps.
Willard, it was more than that. I don't want to count his chips and talk about his money.
Are you backing up your pass line, Steiny? It's the best odds in the whole house.
Willard, that's all I do, baby.
I don't know what that
Steiny,
means.
you look good. You got to back that thing up.
That's
Come
a 3.
on, man.
That's a 3. That's a
Anyway,
4.
first of all, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ, FM and HD1 San Francisco.
You really are.
Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and
I have to
YouTube.
switch it up.
Hold on.
Okay.
Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Don't cover up the sponsor. No, listen. When you say Andy Reid lost those games, did Andy Reid lose those games? How often was he the favorite in those games?
Almost every time.
No, that's
Against
not
Carolina
true.
in 03.
Against New England,
15-1 juggernaut.
Yeah, they were a favorite at times. They were not a favorite other times. But I still am going to go back to the statement I made. The difference between Andy Reid and Philly and Kansas City is nothing.
You think it's the quarterback?
Yes, he's got Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
I mean,
He's got Patrick Mahomes. That's what
If Patrick Mahomes in
apologies,
Philly would he
McNabb.
still not have won a Super Bowl.
That's
Willard,
what Steve
I got
Young.
something for that.
If you heard what Steve Young play it again. Listen to what Steve Young said.
There is no question, and it has been for 3 years now, the best roster in football, the best talent, the best deployment of that talent by a coach, an offensive mind, second or first tied with Andy Reid. So you need a quarterback, and they should win multiple Super Bowls or be in the mix, and they have been in the mix for multiple Super Bowls. So yes, this team is Super Bowl, no question. Super Bowl or bust.
There's not a one of you who thinks if Mahomes was on the Niners for the last 5 years, they wouldn't have a ring.
Okay, Willard, I got something for you, though.
Okay.
That same Mahomes that should have lost to the Niners in 2019 had the coach ran different plays when they were up 10 points. Hold on. That same Mahomes that lost to Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, so he is not automatically, because you play against him, Willard, you can't beat him. The Niners squandered it. And who was most responsible? The play caller.
That's
Those are
fine.
facts.
That's fine. But even if everyone bought everything you just said, that means to you you're going to label the man.
No. I
based
said
on
a trend, Willard.
Okay,
a theme.
but it's
theme
not,
doesn't mean I'm giving you a tattoo.
See, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is a theme. I think it happened in that game. I think it was a very different set of circumstances that led to what happened in the Rams. And then Niner fans start bringing in things with the Falcons and Washington they know nothing about, and he wasn't even the head coach. And I don't think getting ready for a big playoff game is different no matter what round it's in. And Kyle has won a ton of those. So if we're gonna say he can't win the NFC title game, but he did, except for when he did.
Yeah,
but and I want to piggyback on that. Like, you can't say, well, he lost in an NFC Championship game and classify that as not being as a big game that he can't win when he's won a previous NFC Championship game. Like, he's won one of them, so he's already like. If you're going to just say the big game is the Super Bowl and only the Super Bowl, okay, well, then you're making a judgment on him being 0-1. But if you're going to say, well, he lost the Super Bowl and there was that NFC Championship game he lost, well, then you got to give him the NFC Championship game he won, right? That's a big game.
I'm not mad. Yeah, I take your point. I'm like this because I wanted to talk about Ohtani and how things change in life, just in general. But we know 24 hours, okay? So I want a Niner fans to be careful, Willard and Dibs, because we're assuming, and rightfully so, like Steve, that you're going to be there, you're going to be there, you're going to be there. They're one injury to one player, I don't even know his name. We see it happen. It could happen to where Kyle could have had his best chance as a Niner coach to already cash in that chip for a Super Bowl. That may not be the case, Dibs, but you got to be careful thinking you got forever in a day. Now we're talking about next year. The money's different. Ayuk might be gone.
I'm not doing that. No one's doing that.
Oh, okay.
No one's doing. I don't like.
Wow.
I certainly do. I'm not entering this year like, yeah, it's cool. We got time.
That's how I felt.
Nobody's saying that.
And I was getting that from you.
No, but it's to me, and I don't know. I didn't hear obviously your entire, but that it's a leap to go from there to that means we march if they don't win the whole thing. There's a bunch of different things that could happen.
Sure.
It's fair to hope. It's fair to predict that they should be there at the end. I'm not going to sit here on August 25th and say it's a total failure if they don't win the Super Bowl without knowing anything about what happened to make that reality.
He's got 2 years under this current construct, and after 2 years, either Brock Purdy gets a new big deal or you find another quarterback. Whatever you do in 2 years, your roster is going to be completely different. Your left tackle, who's a Hall of Famer, will likely go into retirement, and your wide receiver core that's going to be highly paid, your running back who's making a ton, all the rest of your pieces, you're not going to be able to keep everything, even though you're a big fan of Cap Schmap. I'll just say these two pieces here before you guys get out and start drinking your free drinks. Only 35 coaches have ever won the Super Bowl. 35 is the number. 35 coaches have won a Super Bowl, and one of them is Kyle's father, who did it in year 5 and year 6 as a head coach. So the apple is falling behind the tree.
I want to remind all of you of this.
Those are facts. Go ahead.
I want to remind all of you of this.
When we shove that apple, right?
Just eat it, Steiny.
When we make statements about how we're going to feel a year or 2 or 3 from now if X, Y, or Z doesn't happen, I want to remind everybody that we all said 2.5 years ago, wow, Kyle has hitched his wagon to Trey Lance, and if it doesn't work out, he's getting fired. That was the theme then. And look at us now. Nobody wants him fired. At least nobody who's thinking clearly. Because something else has happened. So when we say, you better win in the next 2 years or else.
You better.
I will respond by saying, or else.
Yes,
something else could happen.
Or else what?
And you might feel completely different because something else might be awesome in that moment and make you not want to hold Kyle's feet to the fire.
Yeah,
well,
I love it.
Just keep celebrating mediocrity. The title of the gym,
the title of the gym, he'll never win it all.
Is from Brandy.
0-1 in Super Bowl,
almost
he'll never
doesn't
win
count.
it all.
That's what it is. Almost doesn't count.
Can I throw you a curveball? Take the Giants Braves Strider against Webb. Take the under 7.5.
Oh God!
But Ohtani, what has this torn UCL done for you to where if you're in a boardroom? How scared? What did that number fall to with this injury to you?
He lost.
Real quick.
He lost $200 million. He lost $200 million because he goes from the best. He's still a great slugger.
Yeah,
he still is like Aaron Judge-esque, but he's no longer the single greatest two-way threat in the history of sports. He lost $200 million.
In a crazy way, if I'm the Giants and everybody's trying to decide how much less he may make. If I'm the Giants, I'm saying, we'll just give you our original offer. You're still that player that we need more than anybody else.
This is the second time.
You could make the case that this will end up being good for the Giants, Steiny. You're right. Like this could if it is now cheaper. That in theory,
but Willard, they needed him as an arm too, though.
Well, Guru, you know who this is really good for?
They just
tell me.
Well, the Giants will sign him and then they'll fail him in the physical, which is what they'll do. But this is a low-key win for the Angels because the Angels are going to sign him to a 2-year deal, Gesundheit, and they're going to keep him for 2 years. This, I think, turns out to be I think he stays with the Angels for 2.
Shocked if he goes back to the Angels.
Just put
he's Dodger to me.
Why do you think he's going to stay there after another year of failure there?
Because he's damaged goods. Shout out Danity Kane. He's damaged.
Look at my guy.
Thank you. I'll give myself a 4 because none of them know what that means.
Other teams will absolutely still line up, don't you think?
Yeah. Put it in the cap.
We're on our way to Circa swim,
Angels,
guys.
2 years, $80 million.
Hey, what do you
Don't
think
forget
of this
the sunscreen, Goo.
What'd you think of this little cap thing? I said, let me just see what Willard says about this. Not so much Dibs.
You are right.
Would you bet me? I think the 49ers are going to have. There'll be a quarterback not on the present day roster. That takes a snap for them this year.
I heard you say this. Well, when you first said it,
look at him smiling like he's just reinvented the wheel.
Right,
settle down, Copernicus.
When you first brought this up, Steiny, what you said was, will the 49ers have a quarterback at any point who's not currently on the roster?
Yes.
I think that's almost like that. That might be a 50-50 thing. Do they sign someone and bring him in for a week because one guy got hurt?
Take a snap then.
Take a snap? I would say no.
Okay.
I would bet no.
Is Trey suited up tonight?
That's what they're saying.
Oh, okay. Wow, man.
I mean, how about this? Do you guys think he should be?
No.
And here's,
you know what?
Here's maybe the real question. How would you feel if Trey Lance plays great tonight? Does that mean, wow, you just showed out for the league and you're going to get a better trade? Mm-hmm. Or does that make you think, wait a minute, Trey's balling out, keep him?
Cheaper to keep him.
Johnny Taylor.
Well, you know what? It's a hard question to answer, Mark, because
you see it both ways, right?
No, because I don't think we really know how I know we think we know, but we don't know how much the 49ers really like or don't like Trey.
And after us four just talked about Jimmy in that farewell press conference and he came back, Steiny brought it up. I'll never put it. Trey could be the third-string quarterback, Willard, and they just keep – no big deal.
See ya.
All right, gents.
All right. You guys,
we'll see you Monday.
He's itchy. Steiny's itchy.
You see
the
a table?
dice are calling.
You see a table? Is that
no,
it?
I'm going to meet my daughter at the pool.
Oh, my gosh. You and your daughter gamble together? That's amazing.
She was his good luck charm.
Yeah.
Hey, how about
Lady Luck?
Tell them.
All right.
Later.
Yeah.
Fly safe.
Bye.